Anyway, on Yap, we're going to be talking about rebranding.
Yes, we are. It's an exciting one. We've got a little bit of discussion to have about is rebranding enough? Or...
Sometimes, we talk about, well, a lot of brands and companies, they think, oh, we've got to rebrand. Like if you think of Jaguar.
Yes. Oh, well, that's a huge one, isn't it?
And people think they need a rebrand to up the ante when really do we actually need to do that?
I think, do you know what? It's an interesting one because for me, it's always like, okay, pardon the pun, what drives the, what drives, that was awful, sorry guys, Jesus, what drives the need for a rebrand? And I think the Jaguar one was quite interesting because as I understand it, the Land Rover section of the business is the only part that was actually keeping it profitable. So apparently the Jaguar side of things was plummeting. So I think it was a kind of a last throw of the dice.
Right.
They were like, look, we can keep Jaguar going because of Land Rover, but we may as well either try something radical to turn it profitable or lose it. Now, I'm not that across what they actually did, but what I am across is that I'm in a WhatsApp group with my dad and some of his friends. It's like all football related. And oh my gosh, I mean, my dad's a wonderful man, but like some of the blokes in that group, so walk, Jaguar, go broke. And I'm like, oh guys, let's all just breathe. Like, come on. So I thought to myself, if it's riling up like bald old white men, then they're probably doing something right. So you never know.
No, yeah, there's actually, I do like it. But I mean, I have a bit of a problem with the whole Jaguar thing, but I mean, maybe it's just because I enjoy things that are classic. Like keep with it. Like that's the luxury of your brand, is to keep it classic and making sure that that brand stays relevant, or not relevant, but has that kind of hierarchy over other new brands that come in. Because if someone was like, hey, I've got a Mustang, you're like, oh, a Mustang. I don't want to see a stupid label other than what the Mustang label is now. I don't want to see a rebrand of that. Like Harley Davidson.
Oh,
imagine if they rebranded to something like Jaguar did.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Do you know what? You've hit on a really good point there, because I think essentially it's about legacy, isn't it, really? And it's about heritage and provenance and all these things where actually you spent so many years, decades, sometimes even centuries building up this brand just to completely pull the rug from underneath it. So I think I get it. Like, I do get the idea of, hey, we're not doing well, we may as well just, throw enough crap at a wall, see what sticks. But there's a difference between doing that and just saying, you know what, we're going to pull the rug from under everything. Because as well, it wouldn't have been cheap, right, to rebrand. These things are expensive,
They are, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a big risk. And also, I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a real big, sorry, I'm going to go on my microphone now. There's a real big thing with minimalism now, like logos that are changing, like the one that, like the Pringles logo. Like, I used to think that was quite a cool idea, and now it's like a circle with like a faint moustache. It's like a smile. It's like a little drawn-on smiley face.
People aren't having fun with their brands anymore.
They're not.
And it really irks me, because I think they're just trying to appeal to that whole. I don't know. Maybe is it a Gen Z thing of people wanting, more simple logos, and just maybe are we just simple beings that just want things that are
this is it. Like,
easy to read?
What are people trying to say? Like, I think I understand, like, they want things to look clean and whatever, but you look at kind of like the signs in the 20th century of like above shops or whatever, and a lot of the
gorgeous,
so lovely. A lot of the towns
carved in the buildings,
literally this, right?
Absolutely.
And this is it's a big thing in the UK. I think I've seen it in New Zealand as well, where they've just left it from 60, 70 years ago, and you look at it and you're like, God, everything just looked a bit more colourful back then, I think. It's got
that charm.
Yeah. I think it's to do with, personally, because obviously the way we consume things is on this little rectangle in our pocket. So if there's, too much going on there, it might look a bit jarring and a bit overwhelming.
True.
Whereas when we're looking up at buildings, they want to catch our eyes more. So I guess, psychologically I do understand it, but just a bit of a shame, really, isn't it?
It is. But we can talk about other brands that, they didn't necessarily have a rebrand. One, because of that whole heritage thing. They don't want to take away that classic, especially because a lot of these brands have been around for ages. But you can think, in recent years, if we think about the Barbie movie, technically that is a rebranding of some sort, and it was through a whole different platform that, yes, they've done before, but in a completely different way. And it wasn't necessarily something that they came up with. It was an idea, and then it just happened to help their brand out, obviously, do you know what I mean? There was
completely.
a different way of doing it, and they didn't have to rebrand. It was just, hey, here's something something extra.
And
that
look
we
what
can
happens.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
And the whole reason people would, like, I mean, I cried in the movie, but the whole reason why it was so successful was because of that nostalgia aspect.
Yeah, completely.
And they had that, like I said, Barbie is literally a legend. Like, gonna go down in history as like the biggest doll in the world. You know.
Shout out Barbie. She's
Shout out
awesome.
Barbie.
Shout out Barbie.
And Ken.
And Ken, of course.
Yeah, sorry, Ken. But you know what I mean? Yeah,
You're
it's
completely right. You're completely right.
She has a brand. Like, why would you change that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think when you have that brand power, like we say, it's something that you've spent so long crafting. And also, it's like, brand is something that you represent when you work for them. So really, you're kind of dictating. It's going to sound so bizarre, but when you have a career and you say, like, I work for Jaguar or whatever, that comes with it a certain air of prestige and a certain air of, complete a wonderful heritage. But then now, I think everyone who works them, well, I hate to say it, not in my personal opinion, but they've become a bit of a laughing stock. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's not only the brand itself that's out there, but it's the people who represent that brand that then have to take on a completely different form. So, yeah, it's a really, really interesting one. I think sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I think I understand it if it's a last roll of a dice, but other than that, I think sometimes if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah,
I do feel bad for the people that love the brand, that work for the brand, yet it's the higher uppers that decide these things, and they don't actually think about these things.
Yeah,
they just think about the money.
Yeah, of course.
Which is a shame.
Money talks, and it's the age old thing, isn't it? Like when you go into, whether you're going to an airport, whether you're going to I don't know, McDonald's, for example, if something goes wrong, it's the person on the front that like suffers, that has to like deal with the crap from the public. But those in their cozy boardroom never have to deal with anything.
Well, and I think it's sad. I do feel for the people that love the brand, want to represent the brand, and then something changes, and then that's gone,
This is it. But that being said, let's check back in 12 months and see how that bottom line is doing, because if the sales somehow go up, then we'll be eating our words. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes.